July 30th meeting. I'm going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. McFarland.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ken. A reminder to silence your cell phones, and there's listening devices available if needed. And next to Mr. Kelly is the meeting documents. With that, we'll start with routine business.
Item 1 is consider a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the agenda with no corrections. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes.
Item 2 is to approve the County Commission minutes of July 23rd, 2013, and the joint meeting minutes of July 23rd, 2013.
Move the minutes.
Second.
Motion to approve the minutes for both of those meetings. Any corrections or changes? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Item 3 are bills to be paid in the amount of $616,983.59.
Pay the bills.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes.
There are no reports today. Item 5 is personnel. A is to approve the routine action.
I'll move routine action.
Is there a second?
Second.
Good morning, Jen.
Morning.
Any comments about routine action? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes.
Item 5B is to consider eliminating one planner one position from the planning department budget effective immediately. This was deferred from July 23rd.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jen Oddix from Human Resources. I believe you've all received a memo on this from the Planning Director, and the Planning Director is here today, as is HR, if you do have any questions.
Thank you. Scott, would you like to come forward, please, and give us your explanation?
Thank you, Scott Anderson from the Planning Department. Last week I provided you a briefing memo outlining our staffing needs in the Planning Department. I hope I adequately identified all the issues that we deal with, the many ordinances that we need to maintain. In addition, we service the needs of the county. We do code enforcement, and it's my opinion, and I'm providing that to you, that we need those planners to adequately staff our office. In addition, that planner, or one of those planners, is sort of our backup planner for our building official when he is on vacation, sick, or out of the office for conferences or training. We have that planner is also our backup building inspector, so we can handle the building inspections that occur throughout the county. Be glad to answer any questions you have, but we really do need that person to adequately function in our office.
Questions for Scott, Commissioner?
I guess I
Barth?
just have a comment.
Okay.
Well, I would say I agree with Scott that we need that position, and that during our budgetary issues, clearly we were thrashing around looking for savings, and the fact that we were able to squeak through, I think, lets us maintain this position. They're going to be hired as planner ones, and that will save us about $12,000, I believe. 14,000 between the two positions. And so I would favor maintaining two at this level instead of throttling back at this time.
Any other comments or questions for Scott?
I would make a motion to continue having two planner ones in the planning department.
Okay. We have a motion to continue with two planners in the Planning and Zoning Department. Is there a second? Is there a second? If not, motion dies for lack of a second. Are there any other motions?
Move to approve the removal of one.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to remove that one position. Is there a conversation about that? Commissioner Heiberger.
I just wondered about leaving the position, but leaving it unfunded at this point. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I would think if we see 6 months from now that this was a mistake, where we can bring the position back. If you leave them in there and then you don't fund them, and next year you fund them, and you don't really look at it, I don't think, carefully enough. That's just my opinion.
Any other comments? Other comments? If not, we have a motion and a second to remove the position from the budget. I think we'll need a roll call vote.
Commissioner Barth?
Nay.
Heiberger?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Pecos?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you, Scott. Next item.
We have no application for abatements today. The next item is notices and requests. A notice from the U.S. Board on Geographic Names on opportunity for public comment on proposal to make official the new commemorative name Manning Creek for a stream in Minnehaha County. The stream is located in Red Rock Township.
Ken, do you want to make any comments about that?
We received a packet of information from the U.S. Board on Geographic Names that they wanted us to make an attempt to disseminate information regarding an opportunity for public input on this proposed new name for this particular stream. In your packets, you have all the information that we received from the U.S. Board of Geographic Names, and we have also put all of this information and the appropriate links that if people would like to comment about this on our website as well. So this is just our way of disseminating this information to the public and giving those folks an opportunity to provide that public input with the links that we have on our website.
Thank you, Ken. Commissioner Heiberger?
Just a question, Ken. Has Minnesota already moved to change that proposed
as I looked at
waterway to Manning Creek?
As I looked at the maps and that on this, Commissioner, and let me see. As I looked at this, there's only it would be most of it is in Minnehaha County. I think just the very tip of the headwaters for the creek, and that might be across the border into Minnesota, but that is just right on the county line, or on the state line. So I believe that most of this creek is well within Minnehaha County. So.
Other Commissioner Pecos?
By making this a named body of water, then does that have implications when it comes to our planning and zoning ordinances?
Commissioner, I do not know that. I just simply do not know.
Commissioner Kelly?
One question and a comment. This does not have a name now.
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, it's not one of these changing bed. Does this mean that in 125 years, because that guy was in the legislature, maybe I get a name, a street in here?
Hopefully in another county.
We got Kelly Temps already.
Let's get back to the agenda.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
If it's going to be another smart comment, no.
I just want to say that when we did our drainage task force stuff, we did talk about naming more persistent waterways. As you know, you have to inform your neighbors unless it gets to a named creek or whatever. And so this is the kind of thing which would have some effect on our ordinances.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other comments?
Nope.
This is a public notice, so is there anybody in the audience who would like to make comments about that? It appears not. You need to make a motion then. No?
No.
We'll go on to the next item.
The next item are planning and zoning notices. A is to authorize the county auditor to publish a notice of hearing to consider vacating a public road right-of-way. Pat Herman.
Good morning, Pat.
Commissioners, Pat Herman for County Planning. This is a notice to vacate a public right-of-way, and I'll read you the legal description for the record. That portion of South Powder House Road beginning at the south corner of Tract 4 of the northwest quarter in Section 9, 101-48, except Lot H1, and extending north to South Dakota State Highway 42 right-of-way in Section 19, 101-48, all lying adjacent to Tracts 2, 3, and 4 of the northwest quarter south of the roadway in Section 19, 101-48, except Lot H1 and South Dakota Highway 11 right-of-way in Section 19, 101-48, all in Minnehaha County. Bruce and Sandy Rosenboom are the petitioners to vacate the section of Powderhouse Road that's shown on the map in red. They are the only property that takes access from this site. The reason they are requesting this is that they would like to add an attached garage onto their house. They cannot meet their setback requirements. They wouldn't meet the requirements to have a variance granted. And so they would like to petition to vacate this road. This is in the joint area with the City of Sioux Falls. City engineering staff is also supportive of this vacation. We've already discussed that with them. And so because it's in the joint area, it does require a meeting with the City Council and the County Commission. So today we're asking the auditor to publish notice of a public hearing at 5 p.m. on August 27th, and that is held at the Carnegie Town Hall, 235 West 10th Street in Sioux Falls. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Pat. Anyone have any questions for Pat?
Make a motion to publish notice.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to publish the notice as of on August 27th at 5 p.m.
It won't be our only issue.
No, it will not.
That's right. It worked out to have more than one there.
Thank you. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. Thank you.
Item 9 is petition for compromise of lien. John Peckus.
Thank you, Cindy. This is on DPNO 39150 in the amount of $12,084.09. The applicant currently is requesting a compromise of lien. There's no real estate involved with this particular transaction. The lien is once again for human services, public defender, and court-appointed services. The lien was established way back in May of 1998. The last assistance was just a couple months ago of April 2013. A total of $240 has been paid since the lien has been established. This was turned over to our collection agency back in 2010 for possible collection, but there's been no contact. Nevertheless, the applicant has contacted the county for the purpose of requesting a compromise on the lien. She is currently on medical disability, which limits her ability to pay off her county aid lien. She notes that her mother is currently her representative payee. She claims that she has no other financial resources beyond the $880 she receives from her Social Security disability. She has no financial assets, and she does have liabilities in the amount of $1,330.55, consisting primarily of outstanding medical bills. She is requesting a compromise of the lien in full without any further payment. She currently understands that she does have this obligation, but she has limited monthly disability income, which does not allow her to make any payments, even small ones, towards this particular lien. So I'll float a motion. I don't know if I'll get a second.
And the motion would be, John?
To compromise the lien in full without any payment.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to Mr. Peckus's? Is there a second? Motion dies for a second. Any other motions? Any other motions?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a motion. I just want to comment that there's no income tax on this thing, and a lot of times there's a earned income credit that people get a lump sum of some thousands of dollars, and that would have been of interest to me.
May I respond to that?
Certainly.
She may not have even made enough money to qualify for even having to file her income taxes.
That's true.
So, but I can also say that as far as trying to garnish or levy, with her Social Security disability, a claim of exemption, she's exempt from any sort of action Minnehaha County can take to try to collect on this. So essentially she's judgment proof. But that's okay. You know, the commission has spoken. There wasn't a second to my motion. She may inherit some money from her mother someday, or who knows what. But regardless, at this particular time, she's essentially judgment proof.
Is there any other motions? We do need a definitive answer on this, so we need a motion.
Well, I'll make a motion to take no action.
Okay.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to take no action. Any other comments? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. Thank you, Cindy.
The next item is opportunity for public comment.
Good morning. If there's anybody who would like to speak about the Sioux Empire Fair, we would be happy to hear from them this morning. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning, Commissioners. Scott Wick, Sioux Empire Fair. Would like to start off by thanking you for your continued support for the 2013 74th Annual Sioux Empire Fair. And as we move forward, on your desks you have our new coffee mugs and some pop or water bottles and some passes to get in. The forecast is looking, actually I never thought I'd say this going into August, it could warm up a little bit. We're talking about, low 70s on a few days and down to 58 at night. But as far as rain, we've had rain events the last 2 years, so it's looking pretty good going forward the next 10 days. And checking the country music charts, the number 1 and number 3 artists are Kip Moore and Hunter Hayes, and they're both going to be at our fair. 4 free shows. So we kick off Friday night with a sneak a peek. The rides are getting built right now. And then we move into concerts starting Saturday, the 3rd through Friday the 9th. And then the 10th and 11th is the PRCA Rodeo, which is also free with a $7 paid gate admission. So we invite you to come out and enjoy the rides and the food and have some fun.
Thank you, Scott. Any comments? I'd just like to thank Scott and Joe for all their hard work, because we all know the history, and over the last few years you guys have done an incredible job in turning it around, and we're very appreciative of your efforts, even if you don't hear that often enough. So thank you for that work, and Joe, thank you for also in your support. So if not, is there anyone else that would like to make a public comment?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner?
I plan to be there every day, and I hope to see you there.
That's my shirt too, Jeff.
This is too small for you.
We all do, but we're not going to make them. Thank you. If not, we'll go to the regular business agenda.
Item number 10 is consider a motion to authorize the county treasurer to enter into an agreement with Data Systems Incorporated for hardware, software associated with the replacement of cash registers in the treasurer's office. Pam Nelson.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Pam.
You kind of know a little bit about my problem, but not a lot, all of it. For the last 3 weeks or 4, we've had troubles with our cash register. And apparently our cash registers are about, they're less than 4 years old. But the company who made these cash registers is now out of business. So finding parts for these cash registers is not possible. They couldn't get them anywhere. They tried, the closest part they had was in Germany, and then when they went to get it, it was gone. So they're basically, the cash register are obsolete. What we were told was the tendency in the country right now is to go to a point of sale where you have a computer and a cash drawer instead of a cash register. Most treasurers in the state of South Dakota have point of sale and don't really use cash registers. We would have to, for our office, use a fairly significantly complicated cash register, so there's only like 1 or so to choose from. So because we need the report by department and by clerk, so you can get a final report, because we have to balance to all the state records. And we have like 3 departments. We have product sales, we have motor vehicle, and we have property. When we looked for bids, we looked for cash register replacements. I kind of liked them, but I guess I have to move on with technology. We have 2 options. You can find a cash register. The option with the cash register costs about the same amount of money as the other, about $26,500 to replace the cash registers. The problem with replacing cash registers is the life is only 3 to 4 years, and there's no guarantee that the companies making them are still going to be in business, because all retail people, grocery stores, other stores are all going to point of sale. So they're kind of obsolete, especially if you need complicated cash register like we would have to have. They prefer then to go to point of sale. The life expectancy is about the same. If you bought the cash registers, and we do have a deal, they're about the same amount of money, $26,500 over, but we'd have to pay 50% of the cost of those cash registers when we order them, and the other 50% when we receive them and they're installed. That also does not include any maintenance, and you'd have to pay $80 an hour for them to service it, and the cost of the parts. Currently in our Treasurer's Office budget, we have a maintenance contract for the cash registers. It costs us $4,200 a year. Under the proposal, under our first option, which would be to do the point of sale, the cost of that program is about the same. It's about $29,000 some dollars. It's $29,600, and that includes the maintenance for the 6 years. It would require $493.33. It would be $4,933.33 a year for the new point of sales. That includes the computer, and it also includes using the current readers that we have. It would also require, though, that we do $3,000 worth of wiring. But if you do that, we have to do that with cash registers as well, and that would not be included in the bid either. I've been working with Facilities, Lloyd, and with IT, Monty. They've, at least Monty has reviewed the bid and was in on all the discussions that we've had about these cash registers versus the point of sales, because I knew it would impact the IT budget and the IT maintenance and all those kinds of things. I think Monty can speak for himself, but I think he believes that, as I do, that probably going to the point of sale with the cost of about $4,933.33 a year is the best route to go. That way we have free maintenance, free parts. They're responsible for them. It's a lease kind of a situation. They have said they've never done this before and offered this to anybody else again, but they felt a little bad that 3 years after we buy these things, we can't get parts for them. We also are a customer that they can depend on. A grocery store or any other kind of store might be out of business tomorrow, but we're still going to be here. So they felt that the lease was a fair option for them and for us. So I guess I'm asking, because of the amount of the money, it required commission consent. So I guess I'm asking you to give me a clue about what you want to do. I think if we go with the point of sales, we already have budgeted for this year the $4,200. That would mean about $733.33 more money that I have to find in my budget for those. And I think we can find that. If we don't, we're going to have to ask for a supplemental budget. But right now it's looking good. We think we have it. Monty's been willing to help us with the wiring issues to the tune of about $3,000. I think he's gotten some bids. And then we would also be required to have, either if we go with cash registers or point of sale, we'd have to have another $3,000, about $3,000 worth of battery backup. That protects their equipment from damage, from electrical problems. It also would protect our existing computers in our office from other computers and the rest of the network from. And I think we can also find that in our budget. But if not, at the end of the year, I'm going to have to ask you for a supplement. So I guess I need some guidance.
Yep.
And
Thank you,
I'd
Pam.
answer questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Pam? Commissioner Peckus?
Pam, you've been really good. I'm your liaison commissioner with keeping me informed of your progress. And I understand you already have 2 registers that are down.
Yeah.
And so, when you think about the windows that we have access to, we got 10 windows. And
12.
so 12. So if you do the math, obviously we're eliminating the number of opportunities people have to get access to get their work done because we have cash registers that are down. I believe that it's incumbent on this county to give Pam the tools necessary to provide the kind of customer service that I think our citizens deserve. So I'm going to say go with the lease option.
Okay, thank you, John. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Barnes?
does our legal department have an opinion on the contract?
On which contract? The cash register?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see anything, no concerns with that.
Monty or Lloyd, do you have any comments that you would like to make?
Monty Wattenbach, Minnehaha County IT Department. Nothing in particular, I reviewed this along with Pam. The lease option makes a whole lot of sense. We did look at what some of the other counties are doing and for example, called down to Lincoln County. And they have a solution that comes with their purchased accounting package. That company kind of gave me a verbal estimate of what an entire accounting package, including the cash register, point of sale application would be, and it was in the tune of $700,000. So we're not doing that.
So how many were you buying of those?
I suppose it just comes with the software. There's probably hardware there too. But so this option does make a lot of sense, and the payment terms, are really good as far as them being flexible with us.
Commissioner Kelly?
Well, I'm not a question, but I'm glad to see the Treasurer's Office doing this. I think point of sale is the way it's going now, and I believe this is going to offer some more opportunities down the road of expansion where the cash registers are pretty limited. So I would certainly support this thing.
Thank you. I'm not being completely facetious about the accounting issue because in our audit report last week, we heard a little bit about the need for a software upgrade, which was probably going to be even higher than that. If you have any time to ever look at software packages from other locations that may in fact be part of a process that we need to consider down the road, I think that needs to be part of the conversation, because right now I think we're behind the 8 ball with what we have existing. It's kind of getting off from Pam's subject, but if there's pieces that integrate with other pieces that make it labor efficient, I think we have to look at that.
I'll just speak on that real briefly and then get out of here.
Sorry.
But, I don't feel that we've ever had the opportunity, if you will, to look at those large, expensive projects in my time here. But what I can say is, we're doing the best with what we can, and we are making improvements on that. There's some of the departments that are using some of the tools that we've created exclusively, and there's still room for improvements there. So we're working with what we have, trying to make some of those improvements. We may find out with time that those improvements are all we need. We may get to a point where we still evaluate those outside products. It would be an expensive project.
Yes, it would.
And it wouldn't be just upfront cost. All those accounting packages have a yearly maintenance fee as well. So certainly something that's always been in the back of my mind, but really hasn't been an opportunity for us to pursue those.
Thank you, Monty. Commissioner Barr?
I'd make a motion to authorize Treasurer Nelson to enter this agreement.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to enter into the agreement for the purchase, lease, I guess. Anyone has any other comments, questions? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. Thank you, Pam.
Item number 11 is consider a motion to approve change order number 1 for a deduction of $2,334.20 to the contract with Asphalt Surface Technologies for project MC 140MS-13, microsurfacing on County Highway 140. Ken McFarland.
You'll recall a month or so ago, this was a contract that you authorized DJ to enter into. This is a new treatment option that he wanted to explore on a county highway called microsurfacing rather than an asphalt overlay. That contract was originally in the amount of $148,781.90 with Asphalt Surface Technologies, and that project is now complete. And what we have is just a reconciliation of the installed quantities versus the planned quantities that were originally in the contract. And so at the end of the project, we're seeing a deduction on that contract of $2,334.20, and we're looking for authorization for you to approve that change order to reflect the deduction.
Thank you, Ken. Does anyone have any questions for Ken about the change? If not, is there a motion?
I'll move the micro adjustment.
Second.
Thank you, John. We have a motion and a second to approve the change order. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. Thank you.
Item 12 is consider a motion to adopt the FY 2014 Minnehaha County Provisional Budget. Ken McFarland.
Commissioners, and that you have before you the FY 2014 provisional budget, and according to state law, you need to adopt a provisional budget before the end of July. The FY 2014 provisional budget that you have before you right now stands at $68,671,401. This budget is supported by revenues that really include a sluggish, what we'll call 1.92% growth in property taxes due to new construction, and a 2.1% CPI adjustment that's allowed within the property tax limitation statute. We've also, this budget's also supported by modest increases in non-property tax revenue, such as bank franchise tax, tax recording fees, board of prisoner fees, and of course an increase in vehicle registration fees to the highway fund. The provisional budget right now includes 3 grant or temporary positions that were currently on staff for 2013, and you are continuing to authorize those as permanent full-time positions for 2014. And those include a deputy state's attorney, a deputy public defender, and the coordinator for the juvenile detention alternative. The provisional budget also has 2 new positions, which include a human services caseworker and an engineer in the highway department. And we have 5 proposed correction officers and 1 proposed deputy sheriff sergeant in the jail to reflect our ongoing conversations about implementing a sobering center. Final decisions on that concept hopefully will be made prior to the time you adopt your final budget. But for now, those positions are in the provisional. The provisional reflects a 1% increase in the county's pay plan for full and part-time employees, along with the normal step increases of 2.5% in accordance with the parameters of the county pay plan. By law, you also have to conduct a scheduled public hearing on this proposed budget prior to final adoption, and that will be held at 9:15 a.m. on Tuesday, September 3rd. That's the required public hearing date on the budget, and then we will bring the budget back to you for final adoption on September 24th of 2013. And that we have told folks that you may choose at your discretion to hold additional hearings if there are further tweaks that you would like to do to this particular budget prior to final adoption. But as it stands right now, it's in pretty good, in the format that you would typically use to adopt it in the final budget. So,
Thank you again. Anyone have any questions or comments?
we do have a copy for the media and for anybody here in the audience of the press release that contains this information as well. Chairman Benega, I believe you have them up by your desk.
Any other comments? Commissioner Heiberger.
Just a comment that not only has this board spent a lot of hours looking at the budget, so have department heads and the auditor's office has spent a lot of time working on this budget to try to stay and live within our means, which is not very easy with limited finances. And I think we did a good job of trying to put the numbers back together again this year, and so I will be supporting this provisional budget.
Thank you.
The one thing I would like to point out, and I'm sorry, is if you take a look at the means of finance page, which should be page 4 of the documents on your iPad, I just do want to draw your attention that we did keep the cash applied, and the final numbers, once payroll was run, the final cash applied number is under the $3 million, which was your target goal. It's at $2,964,732, and that so we did keep within those parameters.
Thank you again, Ken. Any other comments? Any comments from department heads before we talk about finalizing this provisional? I'd like to reiterate what Commissioner Heiberger said. Obviously, the people up here spent hundreds of hours reviewing tons of documents, but most importantly, the department heads have created budgets that were pretty austere in most cases, with rapid growth in public safety and very limited growth in revenue sources, with property tax revenues as the main source. It was a crash course, unfortunately, that needed to be pursued. So to the department heads, I do appreciate everybody's work, because frankly, I know it wasn't any easier for you than it was for us, and we are appreciative of that, and I know how much time you spent doing that. But life will go on, and we will make it as positive changes and hopefully support the needs of the community and the county as well as we possibly can. So thank you, Ken, for your work, and Darlene and Rich. You guys were incredible during that process, because the night after we finished this, we had provisional budgets on our in a draft form the next morning. So thank you for doing that. That's above and beyond. Any other comments?
It's a public hearing. Do we have to?
No, this
it's
is,
not?
you can solicit comments, but it's not a, quote, public hearing
All right.
requirement.
And
That comes in September.
Yeah.
All right.
Is there a motion to approve the 2014 county provisional budget as presented?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments?
Well, I'd just like to comment very briefly that you're absolutely right with the amount of time that we spent in regards to this particular budget, and I can also say that in the last budget hearing, I tried to refrain from getting too philosophical with our discussion, but I can say that, you know, everybody's sitting there commenting about sequestration and how it affects everything, and quite frankly, the result was that it hasn't affected a lot of people directly, but I can tell you where it has affected local government, right here at the county level. Our law enforcement, we have a lot of federal grants that the money that we use to fund certain positions and programs has been greatly affected, and last year we opted out, and you know, as Commissioner Chairman Benega indicated, that money's gone. We had to apply that for the sequester that came in. So if you want to look at how the federal government, their spending is operating, and if you want to look at how the state, Senate Bill 70, and the way they are approaching sentencing and incarceration of individuals in our communities, you have to look at what's going on in county government, because we are the ones that are on the front line. And this budget I support, but I also want to say that we took some actions that downsizes government quite a bit. We just eliminated a position in planning, which, you know, 2 years ago we wanted to expand our attempt at trying to enforce under our comprehensive development plan not only drainage but also our requirements under our zoning ordinances, and now we're contracting that. Why? Because we got a new public defender, we got a new state's attorney, we got more people in human services. These are meat and potatoes government actions that we have to provide for. So believe me, this commission takes a serious look at what we have to provide under the code, and when the legislature or when the federal government, quite frankly, when they drop the ball, we pick it up. And that's what we're doing today.
Thank you, John. Commissioner Kelly?
Well, since about the middle of July, we've cut about $1.2 million out of the cash applied number, and with the help of the department heads and everybody else, I think we were able to shave this budget down to where we're in good financial position, and we will be in a good position if this economy would happen to tip over again. But otherwise, we will have a little healthier outlook going into 2015, 2016. So I think everybody used good judgment. There was a lot to cut from the beginning, but you know, there's a little pent-up demand there that we just had to weigh in and work with. And yeah, there were some hurt. Some people are going to feel pain a little bit, but that's necessary if we're going to keep a county government that's solvent and and still doing the job that it's supposed to be doing.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, we have a motion and a second to approve the provisional budget. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion unanimously passes. Again, thank you very much.
Item 13 is consider a motion to approve the following resolutions for submission to the South Dakota Association of County Commissioners for legislative action. Ken McFarland.
Commissioners, back in July, you identified originally 7 legislative topics or matters that you wanted us to prepare resolutions on for consideration for submittal to the South Dakota Association of County Commissioners for possible inclusion in the association's legislative platform for next year, for 2014. The bylaws of the association state that resolutions that are to be considered by the association at convention must be submitted to the state office prior to August 1st, so 2 days from now. And that typically the next step, once the resolutions then are submitted, they will go to the resolutions committee of the association, and it's out of that committee where they would do some further weeding, that resolutions then are forwarded to the full body for consideration at convention. And that, of course, happens in September. Convention, I believe, this year is September 15th through the 18th in Spearfish. From the 7 resolutions that you initially talked about through the investigative process and further review, we're bringing forward 5 of them back for your consideration. The other 2, one on bridge and weight limits for law enforcement and emergency vehicles. The emergency management director had requested that we not pursue this one simply because there's some more research that he felt was necessary on this particular one. And then the other one on the opt-out about statutory limits, because as we did the further investigation, and that there is no such limit as originally proposed that we could find in the state law. So we bring you 5 out of the 7 that we prepared individual resolutions on. The first one is a resolution to repeal the property tax limitation for statutes. This is the one that you are acutely aware of, that the current property tax limitation limits you to what you can collect on new growth and what you can, and then the CPI, or 3%, whichever is less. So, as has been stated numerous times, state government doesn't operate under any kind of a limitation, and since counties are so heavily reliant on property tax, the property tax limitation does in fact hit us particularly hard. In fact, once we, typically we run close to 48 to 50% of our revenues that we collect are property tax revenues to help support our budget. So it is it's a very big deal for us. And so this resolution would repeal the property tax limitation for counties. The second one is a resolution to provide for an increase in the sales tax on alcoholic beverages. It calls for a 10% increase on the point of sale for the actual, the point of sale for purchasing alcohol at the retail level. One of the difficulties we've had, and I know you've seen comments in the paper as well, that even on the state level, it's difficult to pull out those individual sales from the sales tax to try to get a handle on a potential number. And so that will remain a work in progress as far as how much money are we actually talking about. As Commissioner Barth had indicated earlier, even when we took a look at potentially pulling out a portion of the existing sales tax, I believe the statewide total that would have gone to counties was in the neighborhood of $3.5 million, with potentially over $600,000 coming to the county. And I would estimate that on a proposal such as this, we're at least talking that much money as well. The other resolution we have is to assign responsibility for road maintenance when those roads are annexed or abut municipalities. We do on occasion run into issues when we have municipalities annex and take in a portion of a county road that runs through their jurisdiction or is abutting that road, and that and so the statute is really not very clear. It's very clear when it happens on townships and where, the responsibility lies, but when they abut municipalities, we are not quite as, statutes aren't quite as clear. The other one is a resolution, if perhaps, the resolution to repeal the entire property tax limitation fails. This is a resolution for a one-time adjustment to county mill levies in recognition of county responsibilities, and I would call it a reset button for counties, and that would give the opportunity for counties to consider where, to get a one-time exemption from the property tax limitation to set those levies at realistic amounts based on their budgetary needs, and that would probably still keep intact the opt-out process for future years, but it allows for a one-time reset of that in light of economic realities. And then we followed up on Commissioner Peckas's one about additional funding to compensate for counties for housing of additional inmates. I regret to say, simply because of the work with budgets and everything else, we haven't really had a lot of time to really delve into the numbers to see what kind of impact this really would have, Commissioner. And that I do know Senate Bill 70 does contain some level of reimbursement or funding to allow for what they see as some additional inmates coming through the intensive probation process and having to be set in jail. But beyond that, I apologize, we just have not had the time to really delve into this very deeply. And that, so those are the 5 resolutions that we bring for your consideration. Again, if you pass any of these, they will be forwarded. We'll need a certified copy of it, plus a copy of the minutes, and that which will be forwarded up to the association office. And the next step then is to be reviewed by the association's resolution committee. And they'll go to convention.
Thank you, Ken. Anyone have any comments? Commissioner Kelly?
Ken, the deadline is,
August 1st.
which is what, 2 days away?
Yes. They just have to be in the office by that time.
Well, but there has to be a fair amount of documentation with it, does there not?
And that the documentation just needs to be there when the resolutions committee itself meets, which is typically by the end of August. And so any other further documentation that would be required, we would take those with us to the resolution committee.
Because I think, I support the increase in the sales tax on alcohol, but I think we need to have a lot of numbers, because one of the arguments that's going to come up, of course, is that Minnehaha County gets most of the money. And
we've got
I think the numbers have to be there, though, to prove, because that's going to be a tough sell at the level of the convention.
And we have the spreadsheets that have been done on former proposals, again, to do a cost share of the existing tax, the nickel a drink, and that. So we've got all of those kind of documentation to show what those are and then how they would be split amongst the counties. The difficulty in here is trying to peel out a sale of one particular product as from a whole variety of products that are under the auspices of the sales tax to try to run that particular number through the formulas. That's the difficulty.
I really think that the difficulty in Pure is getting them to, I think they know the numbers. I think they're reluctant to give them to us.
So.
And I think somehow that's going to we're going to have to pull out of their numbers that I'm sure they, with all the computerization and everything else,
And we have the spreadsheets where we can run, once we identify the number, we can run it through our formula basis on the spreadsheets. And typically, past formulas and what we've done with that is based on a percentage of not only population, but total valuation as well for total valuation for the counties, and that's typically how they've been split out.
One other question. Has a resolution committee already been appointed?
I believe it has. I mean, the resolution committee is a standing committee of the association. The membership rotates. They usually have a membership from each of the commissioners' districts that are on the committee, so that there's a broad representation from around the state. And so each of the commissioner districts, and I believe there's 8 of them, I want to say, 8 districts that are represented on the committee.
Thank you, Ken. Commissioner Barth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Kelly, you'll be going out to representing us on the South Dakota Association of County Commissioners Board of Directors, and I think the day after that group adjourns is when the resolution committee meets. I think that
They have
might
their
be,
first crack.
and is that August 9th? Is that the?
I have to check, Commissioner. I just have to verify.
And I guess if I might continue on that alcohol issue, it's interesting that the 2 entities which do collect sales tax on alcohol, the state and the municipality specifically of Sioux Falls, both have a surplus in their budget. Now, I happened to talk to someone in an executive office in Pierre about this, and they attributed it to the fact that they are so good at budgeting, that they have a surplus. And I know that probably today is not the right day for me to ask Mayor Huther for $3 million, but that would be another alternative, would be to redistribute the existing tax to those of us that are incompetent at budgeting.
And that existing tax, again, the existing tax, by our last estimates, would generate somewhere in the neighborhood of $3.5 million, if I remember my math correctly. And then once you run it through the formula, our particular share would be over $600,000 out of that existing tax.
Any other comments?
Are you going to need a motion on each one of these individually?
Yes, we will. We're going to have to go through item by item to decide if that's going to proceed to the South Dakota Association of County Commissioners, and obviously that'll get either approved or denied at that level before it moves to the next step. Let's go to item A, which is the resolution to repeal the property tax limitation statutes for counties. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
You know, this particular item, taxation is still a very local issue. And the whole limitation was in response to what was perceived as perhaps a movement towards an income tax because of the local taxes and the people's attitude towards it. If a community, South Dakota still has that little libertarians to let us decide our own fate, and that should extend down to the local levels. And I think there's some merit to removing that. If it gets carried away, it's been with us since 1996, 77, and it has really stymied our ability. We have costs that other counties don't have. Our public safety costs are so much higher, and even percent, I'm sure, than other counties. And people down here want, they want safe streets. They want the safety that's involved that we have to provide with our public defenders, our state's attorney, and everything else. So I think trying to get this done, it might not happen this year, but it might be a start towards work on the legislature towards saying, well, let's go back to a little more local control. We don't have a lot of local control because we can only do what the state allows us to do, and that's particularly in our taxation. So I would support trying this one and seeing where it goes.
Any other comments on item A? Commissioner Heiberger?
I'll support it. I don't think it'll go anywhere, but maybe it'll send the message again to Pierre that we're having trouble, and because of limitations they've set on us, we continue to have financial difficulties.
Any other comments?
Well,
Commissioner?
there has been a concerted effort on the part of the state, and it's very incremental in its growth. But, for example, just a few offhand comments. We needed an adjustment of our 911 surcharge from, I believe it was set at 75 cents. We wanted to raise it to $1. Lo and behold, we went and we took it to the legislature. After much wrangling with the legislature, the solution is that that money now goes to PEER, and they decide how much we get back, which I think the net result was an increase of $8,000 last year, which shocks the effort that this county put together. But the interesting point is that the state kept the money. Property tax reform. This board was charged with doing property tax relief. Once again, we redid the entire statutory structure related to ag valuations. Now, magically, the information goes to PEER, where the agronomists determine how much your land can actually produce. They shake it up in the black box, and they tell the county, this is how much you have to charge them. Once again, we see it siloed from the state. This example of property tax limitation is interesting because when you look at the way the state has approached many of the challenges that county government has to fund, amazingly, I see it being siloed at the state, and then they tell us what we're going to get out of it. There's been a huge change and a shift from being a partner with the state, working hand in glove, to being the recipient of what the state's willing to give to us, why they keep the money. You figure it out. This county commission has been very, very frugal with its budget. We've only had to opt out when we absolutely have to. This property tax limitation has created huge burdens that the people of Minnehaha County have been having to deal with. And for example, with all our property tax increases, I think I voted on 5 since I've been here in the last 12 years. Of those 5, only once did they take out petitions. That's how austere and frugal we are with our particular budgets. Believe me, counties are disproportionately affected than, I would say, the other entities out there that are having to deal with it. And I think that it is time for us to take a look at that property tax limitation. And Dick's the conservative Republican. He seconded the motion. I'm a conservative, but I'm telling you, when it comes to meat and potatoes, government, county government is where it's at. And it's been an interesting challenge on the part of county government to meet our obligations statutorily under the property tax limitation. And I know what the legislature is going to say. We give you an option. It's simple. Opt out. Raise everybody else's taxes. Well, how many times have you heard the legislature up in Pierce saying, we're going to raise everybody's taxes this year? No, they found the scapegoat, and it's by collecting all the money in Pierre and then letting the county go ahead and raise your taxes. So we are the scapegoat. So I do think that it's time for us to take a look at that.
Thank you, John. Any other comments? Commissioner Barth?
I do think it will be tough to get this, but if we don't ask for what we want, we'll never get it. And, I think that with that 911 increase, I'm sure that they completely pointed the finger at us and said, we're doing it for them, even as they stuff their pockets with the money.
$8,000.
Other comments? If not, let's vote on item A. We'll do it by roll call, please.
Commissioner Barth?
Aye.
Heiberger?
Yes.
Kelly?
Aye.
Pecos?
Aye.
Benega?
Yes. Motion unanimously passes. Item B is a resolution to provide an increase in the sales tax on alcohol beverages.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Other comments?
Well,
Commissioner Pecos?
I enjoy a nice alcoholic beverage, and I'm willing to pay an extra 10% to enjoy it.
Commissioner Barth, you got a comment?
I've made so many on this issue. I'm afraid to open the dam here. It'll just go rushing out. But clearly, it's the right thing to do. And if accidentally it discourages alcohol consumption, too bad. People should drink less and work more.
Said the Democrat.
Other comments? Interestingly enough, I will say that I had a discussion even yesterday with a very conservative person, and he indicated to me that he thought that if the legislature wasn't willing to address our public safety issues with alcohol tax increases, that we ought to start a petition drive. He said, I think you sell that in about 3 minutes when you start talking about the growth in public safety issues, especially here in Minnehaha County. That's double-digit every year, and how that's affecting our budget, even if we don't know how to budget, according to some people. The issue is that there's probably enough tax dollars in the system. It's not appropriated correctly, because two forms of government have significant increases for year after year after year after year, and we always have to cut when we get double-digit increases in public safety issues. So there is a train wreck at the end of this if we don't start doing something about the need for covering our bases and making this community and this county a public safety issue. So, Commissioner
I
Ivory.
think John's first.
Well, I was just going to say, you're absolutely right, but what I'm sure Ken would remind us all is that they got us cut off at the pass because the state legislature made sure that we can't do a petition drive. As we can as private citizens, but not as a commission. We can't expend any public funds for that petition.
I understand that, but we'll talk about that later.
We know where to stand at the courthouse to get signatures.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other comments, Commissioner Ivory?
I was just going to comment that as we continue to squeak by on the small amounts of money we have taken all the money or most of the money from the nonprofit organizations that we have funded over many years that the state no longer funds. One that I'm thinking of is the Conservation Department, which I believe Ken told me this morning. We used to give them approximately $40,000 a year. They can hardly make their budget work anymore. They've cut staff, they cut programs, and they're not the only ones. You look at every one of those nonprofits that the county used to help support. They're no longer getting support from us because we've had to pull back our donations to them in order to run our own programs and our own stuff that's suffering.
Well,
Commissioner Peckus.
if I can kick this dead horse just for one more minute. Compass Center, classic example. They used to get money from the state to help fund their, it was their domestic abuse program, where individuals that were actually convicted of domestic abuse had to go through their program. They have a 2% recidivism rate, 2%. So when the guys go through that, or the women, they don't commit that again. State cut their money.
Commissioner.
Interestingly, the number of the nonprofits that we support are probably there because of the result of alcohol-related incidents to begin with, and it's an issue that's got to be faced, and I think even the potential of a petition drive, even though I hate to see all these initiated measures, but that's one of the rights we have, and if the legislature doesn't move, that's an option we have.
Other comments? Commissioner
I would
Barnes?
just say we have a representative from the Glory House here right now, which is getting zero funding from us. But perhaps Dave would like to say something? Maybe not.
Well,
Dave, you'll need to come to the mic, please.
Dave Johnson, Director of the Glory House here in Sioux Falls. Well, I think you've pretty well summed it up. And I'm sure ears are open about petition drives and the need to actually drive or bring in income, because you're exactly right, Commissioner Kelly. A lot of the stuff that certainly our agency does and many of the nonprofit agencies are doing is a direct result of alcohol and other substance use. So I at least appreciate it being recognized, and as a citizen, I totally support it.
Thank you, Dave. Other comments? I will tell you that I sit on the board for the Compass Center, and every time I go to one of the board meetings and hear the stories, when I leave there, I'm about ready to go knock on some doors, and frankly, it's very emotional to listen to some of those comments and concerns, and it's very difficult to accept that as part of our society, so to speak, and nobody's really taking responsibility for that except for us. I mean, John's absolutely right, is that they lost all their funding. They supposedly were going to get pieces of it back last year and never even made it out of a subcommittee to discuss the issue. So, and now we brag about budget surpluses. Commissioner Kelly?
If this passes, and I think it will, this group at least, I think we really need to spend the next 2 or 3 weeks putting together, getting the statistics and getting everything, and I think it should be a priority now that we're done with the budget, and we're going to have to go into this thing with our guns loaded and ready for the big fight, but even at the county, even at the commissioner's level, I think there's going to be a lot of reluctance because of the nickel a drink deal, which obviously failed miserably.
Yeah.
But I guess I just would hope that we would we would go in with, we'd have enough information to go in to make it a very, very strong case, including what we just discussed.
May I, Mr. Chair?
Certainly.
Since you brought up nickel a drink, the last time we championed this, I know Ann Hayek and Carol were still here at the time, and I think, Jeff, you were here, I was here, and when that got sponsored, the alcohol lobby actually put together special tents they put up in bars saying, don't raise your taxes, and put our home phone numbers. So we got calls at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning from drunk individuals saying, don't raise our taxes. And mind you, there weren't any disclaimers on those particular tents as well, which, of course, the Attorney General said, I can't do anything about that, which I thought was really interesting, because they definitely can prosecute us if we put anything out there without a disclaimer. But anyway, I remember my son, who was, I believe he was 6 or 7 at the time, was up late on a Friday night, and the phone rang, and he picked up the phone and got a very disturbed, drunk individual yelling at him about his alcohol. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff you get, and that's the kind of games people play up in Pier. But he's right when he talks about that nickel a drink. That's what happened. Right, Jeff?
I was lucky as a new commissioner, they still had Jim Sweep's phone number.
That's a true story.
Oh, that's bad. Any other comments? If not, we will take a roll call vote on item B.
Barth?
Aye.
Heiberger?
Yes.
Kelly?
All right.
Pecos?
Aye.
Finnegan?
Yes. Motion unanimously passes. Item C is a resolution to assign responsibility for maintenance of roadway adjacent to municipalities. Any conversation? Any motions?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve item C. Now any comments? Commissioner Heiberger?
I think this is just cleanup work to make it clear as to who's responsible.
Absolutely. Comments from the audience? If not, roll call vote on item C.
Barth?
Aye.
Heiberger?
Yes.
Kelly?
All right.
Pecos?
Aye.
Finnegan?
Yes. Motion unanimously passes. Item D is a resolution to allow for a one-time adjustment on county mill levies. Is there a motion?
Well, I'll make the motion. This has come up repeatedly since I've been elected on the commission. It's just a
Second.
one-time shot.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the commission?
Well,
Commissioner Kelly?
I think this is going to be an awful difficult one to get through, even the county commissioners, but particularly the legislature. But I would rather concentrate on repealing the tax limitation than messing around with the mill levy, and so I'm not going to support this one.
Any other comments about the item?
Yeah, just to once again revisit the history. Minnehaha County saw the property tax limitation coming, and so in an effort to try to placate, we immediately adjusted our mill levy down to the lowest level we possibly could. And guess what? We got locked in at the lowest possible rate. I think the other lowest one was Lincoln County. Minnehaha County and Lincoln County are the lowest. Pennington County is the highest. But what's amazing is that they have a larger budget than we do, and we have twice the people.
Other comments? Any comments, Ken?
No, sir.
You don't want to get caught in this, do you? If not, again, we'll do a roll call vote on item D.
Barth?
Aye.
Heiberger?
Yes.
Kelly?
No.
Pecos?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes. Item E is a resolution to provide additional funding to compensate counties for housing of additional inmates. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion. I know there's no real resolution out there, but this is something that a circuit judge pointed out to me.
Second.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve item E. Other comments or explanations? John, do you have any other comments?
Well, I know that we have a group that's meeting that you and Commissioner Kelly sit on, and I know it's an attempt on the part of the Sheriff's Advisory Committee to go ahead and try to look at ways of dealing with the explosive number of inmates that we're going to be receiving. And I know the DOC said you can expect up to 90 inmates. Where that number came from, I don't know, but that's what the indication was. And so when you're thinking about beyond 6 months of housing felons up to a year, that extra 6-month time span would have been on the state budget. And if a circuit judge is going to sentence a felon to up to a year in our county jail, it would be nice if, since, as indicated by Commissioner Barth, they have a budget surplus, Lord knows that they could help give some remuneration back to what I would call the huge jail cathedral we have adjacent to our building that is going to get bigger and bigger as we sit here. It would be nice if the state recognized that, because believe me, if we're going to build floors on that thing, they're not building over there at their penitentiary site. And so, believe me, they're passing the buck. And I think that's absolutely something that if they have a budget surplus, they can give some of it back here.
Other comments? Commissioner Kelly?
Well, this is one I think would be better work through the governor's office, trying to get some support there. I don't think it's got a chance, and heck, we're to pass. But there is some reimbursement in the Senate Bill 70. It's going to go away, and somewhere maybe we can make conversation with the governor's office, particularly because our situation is unique, I think, to the state, or more unique than anybody other than Pennington. And if you're going with too much stuff, this one they could probably throw out. But I will not support it because I don't think it will go anywhere.
Commissioner Pecos?
Now, we do have agreements with the state, for example, in relationship to their work release program out of the penitentiary. They pay us well over $200,000 to administrate work release through our particular county corrections center. But as what was indicated in the budget hearing, if we're moving away from work release and we're moving away from a county corrections center system altogether, the state's going to have to figure out how they're going to come up with their own work release type situation or trustee situation. Well, that's another $200,000 to our bottom line that isn't going to be there.
Other comments? Commissioner?
This is a frustrating one simply because it's so new. I mean, Senate Bill 70 is a new thing, hasn't been fully implemented. We haven't seen the full impact that it may do. And that, I know one of the great fears that the commission expressed even at the start of the discussion on Senate Bill 70, that it might not concern us so much if it weren't for the fact that we're full already. I mean, our facility at the jail is full, our correction center is full, and it's because of the fact that we're full that any kind of influx that is coming from new legislation that you can pinpoint to that puts more cost on us. I mean, that's burdensome on us. But you're right, we don't know exactly what that full impact will be until this thing is up and roaring. So it's tough to calculate, and it's tough to get a handle on that. But I have no doubt in my own mind, and I share Commissioner Pecos' same concerns, I have no doubt in my mind that I've seen this before. I have seen where, the state has advocated for something and it eventually becomes a county responsibility where we end up holding the bag. I mean, I've seen it. I've been doing this job for 35 years, and I've seen it time and time again. And so there is a sense of frustration and a sense of the unknown when we deal with things like this.
Commissioner Peckus?
Well, and if I may be so bold, I do think that if you like Texas Hold'em, you're going to love Senate Bill 70, because the way it works is this way. Our circuit judges, state employees, they have the option of sentencing our felons to the South Dakota State Penitentiary. Circuit judges will sentence our felons, at least before Senate Bill 70, to the Minnehaha County Jail, because I've heard it directly from circuit judges, from their mouths, the ones that are doing felonies, the ones that are doing criminal cases. I'm going to sentence them to 6 months in the county jail, and then I'm going to authorize them to go and have work release so they stay at home, they're making their payments, because Minnehaha County has that option. And they know as state employees there's no room at the pen. They don't have room. So they'll send them to our jail. Why? Because they're here in Minnehaha County, because most counties don't have jails. So they use us as a safety valve. With Senate Bill 70 coming in, we're getting more people at the door. We're just upping the ante. And as we up this ante, going higher and higher and higher, the fallout is just what Ken's talking about. We are the ones that are going to have to accommodate this. We can either deal with it now, or we're going to have to deal with it later. But if the sheriff is sitting there saying, I want to get out of work release, the state relies on Minnehaha County to administer their work release program. That's upping the ante even more, because now we got circuit judges saying, I'm going to send them to the jail, because then they can get authorized for work release. If we take away the work release option, that's going to be something different from the circuit judges that they're going to have to consider. So we're removing options from them, and we're shoving more people into our system. That's upping the ante even more. We're creating a really interesting problem, and we're going to have to deal with it either now or in the immediate future.
Mr. Kelly?
Well, I agree with John. It's going to happen. The trouble is, if we have an appropriation, if we have a specific number that's going to last for one legislative session or for one term, you can't commit future legislators to an agreement today. Give us the resources. Just give us the ability to handle these problems, and which the liquor tax, for instance, would be a resource. We need to have the ability to fund, to do what our job constitutionally is.
The best example I could give to the public to understand the frustration that counties face in this matter, and you've seen it all through budget hearings. There seems to be all sorts of money to give the state and the cities money for saturation patrols, to give money for checkpoints. So when all that stuff happens, then those people come to us. And when that person comes to us and then they're in our jail, we feed them, we give them the medical bills, we prosecute. Chances are, in the vast majority of time, we're also paying for the defense. And that's so once they go through the entire system, when it finally comes time for them to have their sentence and to face justice, and there's a fine that they have to pay for their heinous act that they committed against society, where does the fine money go? Maybe to reimburse us? No. It goes to the schools. So that's the great frustration that counties face, is that everybody else seems to have money to do their job, but we get faced with the problems, and there's no corresponding remuneration at the end. There's no recognition, it appears, of the role that we play in this whole process. And so when everybody's all said and done, somebody else gets the dollars for it. And it's a huge sense of frustration for counties.
And if I can just ask Ken a quick question. Ken, when you mention that to the people in the legislature, their response is, "We'll just opt out.
Yeah.
Raise everybody's taxes." They won't. You can. So pass the buck.
Thank you, John. Any other comments? Commissioner Barth?
I do think this is a bit of a nebulous bill in as much, or suggestion in as much as we really don't know what it's going to cost. But I think it's fine to let folks know we already are aware of the issue, and so I will support it.
Any other comments? This is one that I probably am not going to support, only because we've already approved items A, B, and D, and if those particular items were approved, which we have very little chance of getting this time around, I think, but we'll work on it, E would take care of itself. So I'm going to not support it because I think we're throwing too much at one point. We're kind of flock shooting, if you will, rather than pinpointing what we're shooting at. So I think this is one of those that, for right now, although the intent is good, I think we have to have a better rifle shot than knowing exactly what's going to happen. So, any other comments? If not, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Barth?
Aye.
Heiberger?
Yes.
Kelly?
No.
Pecos?
Yes.
Benega?
No. Motion passes 3-2. Thank you. I appreciate everybody's input on those resolutions, and I think we all need to do a lot of public relations for our own support and to find ways to support the county's budget in some particular ways so that we don't have all these issues to deal with. I will go to item 14, the liaison reports. Anyone have any? Commissioner Barth?
Next week, the State Association of County Commissioners is having their board meeting, and Commissioner Kelly will be representing us there. And I think the day when that concludes is the day that the Resolutions Committee will be meeting, and I know we're going to be short-staffed. Is there any way that we can have someone in attendance at that Resolutions Committee to promote our issues? Mr. McFarland, is there, could we send someone from a different department or something that would be able to speak on our behalf, whether it's the sheriff or the state's attorney or the
McFarland.
auditor?
He's on vacation.
He's in another city for the week.
I may not be capable of
You could stop by on the way.
Well, I just wonder if there is, I'm very serious, I would like us, I think these are important enough that it would be good if we could. Okay.
Thank you, Ken. That's a good suggestion, Jeff. Any other items for new business? If any items for old business? If not, we need to go to exec session again for legal briefings, pending litigation, and contract negotiations.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to go into exec session for legal briefing, pending litigation, and contract negotiations. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?